Have you ever looked at your bank account and thought, I worked so hard, so why is there almost nothing left? It wasn't an absurd purchase. You didn't make any financial mistake. Even so, the money simply disappeared. This happens to millions of hard-working, responsible people who wake up early every day. And the most dangerous thing is that they believe the problem is just earning too little. But Robert Kiyosaki always warned about something different. The problem isn't just how much money comes in. The problem is where it's going out without you noticing. Imagine trying to fill a water tank full of small, invisible holes. You pour water in every day. Your salary, your effort, your life hours, but the level never rises. Not because you don't try hard enough, but because there are silent, socially accepted expenses that seem normal, yet destroy your ability to build wealth. And here's the big trap. These expenses don't seem like mistakes. They seem like comfort. They seem like reward. They seem like, I deserve it. But over the years, they steal something much greater than money. They steal your future freedom. In this video, you'll start to see what has always been in front of you, but no one taught you to notice. And when you see these financial leaks, your way of seeing money changes forever. Insurance is something that brings an immediate sense of relief. You pay and think, now I'm protected. And yes, some insurance is fundamental, but the problem starts when fear begins to rule decisions. Many people pay insurance for almost everything: extended warranty for the television, insurance for cheap appliances, insurance for an old cell phone, extra warranties that the salesperson pushes saying it's just a little extra per month. That little extra is the trap. Because it's not just one, there are several. And added up, they become hundreds per year, thousands throughout life. Robert Kiyosaki teaches a simple principle: protect what can destroy your financial life, not what is merely inconvenient. Does it make sense to have home insurance? Yes. Liability insurance? Also. Health insurance? Essential. Now, very expensive insurance for a product you could replace with part of your emergency fund. That's no longer protection, it's fear being sold as necessity. Companies know that people are afraid of losing, so they offer peace of mind in installments on the card. But true financial peace doesn't come from insuring everything. It comes from having control, reserves, and intelligence to deal with the unexpected. Sometimes you're not being prudent. You're just paying to feel secure while your money slowly goes away, month after month. And the worst part? That money could be being invested, growing, working for you. There is a type of expense that doesn't seem dangerous, doesn't attract attention, and is almost never planned, but which over the years has an enormous impact on your financial life: impulse purchases. They don't arise from necessity, they arise from emotion. They happen when you're tired, bored, anxious, or even wanting to reward yourself for a difficult day. At that moment, the purchase isn't about the product, it's about the feeling. You enter a store just to look, open an app with no intention of spending, or start browsing the internet to distract yourself. Suddenly a promotion appears, a limited time discount, a message saying few units remain. Your brain receives that as an unmissable opportunity, even though in practice, that item doesn't change your life at all. In a few minutes, the decision is made. The card is used, and you feel immediate pleasure, as if you had won something. The problem is that this pleasure is quick, but the financial effect is lasting. Robert Kiyosaki always taught that the difference between those who get rich and those who live tight isn't just in how much they earn, but mainly in how they decide to spend. People who build wealth learn to postpone small satisfactions to achieve great results in the future. Those who live on impulse trade growth opportunities for objects that lose value and appeal in a short time. Each impulse purchase doesn't just represent the amount that left your account. It also represents what that money could have become if it were invested. Over the years, small amounts spent without thinking could transform into a solid reserve, extra income, or even freedom to choose to work less and live with more tranquility. When you spend on impulse, you're not just buying a product, you're giving up future possibilities that you can't even see at that moment. Another important point is that these decisions rarely bring lasting satisfaction. Shortly after, the object becomes just another thing, stored, forgotten, or replaced by another novelty. The money, however, doesn't come back. That's why developing the habit of pausing before buying is one of the most powerful attitudes to change your financial life. Taking time to think, waiting a day or two, and asking yourself if that is really necessary is usually enough for the impulse to disappear and reason to resume control. Today, almost everything has become a subscription. You no longer just buy a service, you enter into an automatic payment that repeats every month. Movie, series and music streaming, editing apps, cloud storage, course platforms, discount clubs, gym, benefits programs, and so on. Individually, each amount seems small, something that fits in the pocket and doesn't deserve much attention. The problem is that your money doesn't go out all at once. It goes out silently, month after month, like a faucet dripping non-stop. You hardly notice because it's not a big purchase that requires a decision. It's automatic. And precisely because it's automatic, it stops being questioned. Robert Kiyosaki always reinforces that financially conscious people track where every dollar is going. Those who live on autopilot end up sustaining expenses that don't bring real return. How many of these services do you actually use frequently? How many subscriptions did you make full of motivation at the beginning and then abandoned, but the charge continues? Many people pay for a gym without going, course platforms they never open, 3 or 4 streaming services when they only have time to watch one, apps that were useful for a week and then forgotten. The money keeps going out, but the benefit no longer exists. It's like paying for a light on in a room that nobody uses. When you add up all these small monthly fees, the number can be scary. And most importantly, this amount could be being directed to investments, to an emergency fund, or to reduce debts. Instead, it's financing services that add nothing to your current life or your future. Creating the habit of reviewing subscriptions at least twice a year is a simple step that can free up a significant amount of money. It's not about cutting everything, but about keeping only what you actually use, and that brings concrete value to your routine. Wealth isn't about living without comfort, but about having awareness and intention in every expense. There are expenses that don't happen once a month, but almost every day. Precisely because they're frequent and apparently low in value, they go unnoticed. A pack of cigarettes here, some drinks on the weekend, bets, online games, small escapes that seem harmless individually, but which, added up over months and years, represent an enormous amount of money. The great danger of these habits is that they become automatic. The person doesn't even think anymore, just repeats. It doesn't enter the mental account as an important expense. It becomes part of the routine, like drinking coffee or brushing teeth. Except that unlike healthy habits, These have a continuous and growing financial cost. Robert Kiyosaki always talks about the difference between spending on something that builds assets and spending on something that only consumes resources. Financial vices fall into the second category. They don't generate return, don't increase your income, don't build wealth. On the contrary, they withdraw money that could be working for you and can still generate extra expenses in the future, especially related to health. When you put on paper the monthly value of these habits and multiply by years, the result surprises. What seemed like just a little bit per day can represent the value of a car, a good financial reserve, or several investments that could be earning compound interest over time. It's money that stops building your freedom to sustain a custom that often doesn't even bring the same pleasure as before. It just became routine. This doesn't mean you can never allow yourself moments of leisure or small indulgences, but rather that awareness is needed. There's a big difference between choosing something occasionally in a balanced way and maintaining an expensive habit that drains your finances without you noticing. People who build wealth learn to question even small expenses because they know that financial future is shaped by decisions repeated every day. Few things affect people's emotions as much as a new car. The smell, the shine, the feeling of achievement, the idea that now you made it. The automotive industry and advertising know exactly how to connect the car to the image of success, respect, and personal fulfillment. The problem is that financially, a car is almost never an asset. Most of the time, it's one of the goods that most rapidly loses value. Robert Kiyosaki teaches that it's essential to understand the difference between asset and liability. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. An expensive car, especially when financed or traded frequently, fits perfectly into the definition of liability. It starts losing value the moment it leaves the dealership and continues demanding money over the years with fuel, insurance, maintenance, taxes, and possible repairs. Many people commit a large part of their monthly income to maintain a car that impresses others, but tightens their own budget. It's like wearing a costume of wealth while inside, finances become increasingly fragile. The money that could be being invested, generating income or building wealth, ends up trapped in something that only depreciates over time. This doesn't mean you can't have a comfortable or reliable car. The question is proportion. When the car costs more than your financial reality can handle, it stops being a means of transportation and becomes a burden. People who build wealth generally prioritize investments and assets first. Only later, when the income generated by these assets is sufficient, do they think about luxuries that don't compromise their stability. The car may bring satisfaction, but it shouldn't cost your financial tranquility. Because freedom isn't driving the model of the year while living worried about bills. Freedom is knowing that your money is growing even when you're not working. Debt in itself isn't always the problem. Robert Kiyosaki usually differentiates two very clear types: debts that help you acquire assets, which can generate income in the future, and debts used to buy things that only take money out of your pocket. It's this second type that traps so many people in a life of constant tightness. When someone goes into debt to buy clothes, electronics, trips, expensive furniture, or any item that doesn't bring financial return, they're basically using future money to pay for present pleasures. At the moment of purchase, the feeling is good. It seems you got something you really wanted. But weeks later, the bill arrives, interest appears, and reality weighs. The big problem with bad debts is that they don't come alone. Interest makes you pay much more than the original value. What cost 1,000 can become 2,000 or more over time. And while you're busy paying installments, you can't invest, can't form a reserve, and can't take advantage of opportunities that could improve your financial life. It's like running on a treadmill. You make an effort, work more hours, try to earn more. But the money already has a certain destination, paying old bills. Instead of your work building freedom, it serves to sustain past decisions that didn't generate any growth. Kiyosaki always reinforces that financially free people use credit with strategy, not with emotion. They avoid financing goods that depreciate and think several times before taking on a long installment. They know that each fixed installment reduces their margin of choice in the future. The more bad debts, the less freedom you have to change jobs, invest in a business, or simply breathe with tranquility. Getting out of this cycle starts with awareness and priority. Paying off consumer debts should come before thinking about new luxuries. Each debt eliminated is like removing a weight from your back and opening space for your money to finally start working in your favor, not against you. We live in a society where image speaks loudly. Designer clothes, expensive watches, famous bags, brand name shoes, all this is constantly associated with success, power, and achievement. Advertising and social media reinforce this idea every day, showing luxurious lifestyles as if they were the standard for those who won in life. The problem is that most of the time, these items are nothing more than symbols. They don't generate income, don't increase your wealth, and don't bring financial security. On the contrary, they consume money that could be being used to buy assets, invest, or create income sources. Robert Kiyosaki always warns that many people spend everything to look rich, while the truly rich are busy buying things that put money in their pockets. When someone buys something luxury just to impress others, they're making a financial decision based on others' opinions. It's as if the goal wasn't to improve their own life, but to sustain an image. An image doesn't pay bills, doesn't guarantee retirement, and doesn't protect you in difficult times. This doesn't mean you can never have something of quality or even a luxury item, but the order matters. People who build wealth first invest, create assets, and strengthen their financial base. Only later, when money is already working for them, do they consider luxuries that don't compromise their stability. Luxury, in this case, becomes a consequence of wealth, not an attempt to pretend it exists. Spending to impress is an expensive and endless game, because there will always be something newer, more modern, and more exclusive. Investing in assets is a path that builds something solid, that grows over time, and that no one can take from you with a simple change of fashion. Technology evolves fast, and that's great. Cell phones, computers, tablets, smartwatches, and various other devices really make life easier. The problem starts when utility stops being the main reason for purchase, and the exchange starts happening just because a new model came out. Suddenly, the device that worked perfectly a few months ago seems old. The camera is no longer the best, the screen isn't the most modern, the design is no longer the latest release. Even if the device still meets all your needs, that feeling arises that you're falling behind if you don't update too. Robert Kiyosaki always taught that it's necessary to differentiate desire from necessity. Many technology exchanges don't happen because the equipment stopped fulfilling its function, but because the industry creates a constant cycle of novelty. This cycle encourages you to spend repeatedly on something that, in practice, brings little or no real improvement to your financial life or productivity. Besides the value of the device itself, there's the whole ecosystem of expenses that comes with it. Accessories, insurance, cases, headphones, updates, and sometimes even new service plans. When you add all this over the years, you realize that a large amount of money was directed just to keep up with releases, not to build wealth. People who think like investors usually extract maximum value from what they already have. They change technology when there's a clear need or when the equipment really stopped serving its functions. Otherwise, they prefer to direct the extra money to assets that can grow over time instead of objects that quickly lose value and are replaced by newer versions. Lotteries, sports betting, casinos, online games, and various other forms of gambling share the same silent promise. What if you're the next to win? This question is powerful because it feeds the imagination. The person starts thinking about how life would change, about bills paid off, about the new house, about financial tranquility. For a moment, it seems like a quick door out of difficulties. The problem is that mathematically, the system is made so that most lose. Games of chance aren't investments, they're expensive entertainment. With each bet, the chance of losing is always greater than winning. And over time, the most common result is constant loss of money. There may even be an occasional win, but it's almost always returned in new bets because the habit has already been created. Robert Kiyosaki always emphasized that building wealth is a process based on financial education, patience, and assets that generate income. Games of chance go in the opposite direction. They stimulate emotional decisions based on luck and the expectation of a big lucky break that solves everything at once. While the person dreams of a big prize, small amounts continue leaving the pocket regularly. The most dangerous thing is that these amounts seem small individually. A ticket here, a bet there, a game on the phone to try your luck. But when you add everything over months and years, the total could have been invested, earned interest, and helped build a solid financial base. Instead, it was handed over to a system that depends precisely on most people losing so that a few can win. This doesn't mean someone can't, very occasionally and consciously, treat a bet as leisure, the same way they pay for a movie ticket. The problem arises when betting becomes financial strategy, when the person starts believing that's the path to getting rich. At that moment, they stop building real wealth and start feeding an illusion. As income increases, many people commit an almost automatic mistake. They increase their standard of living at the same speed, or even faster. They move to a house bigger than they really need, choose more expensive neighborhoods, take on long financing, raise the level of consumption in restaurants, leisure, clothes, and travel. All this gives the sensation of progress, as if life were finally at the right level. The problem is that financially, this lifestyle jump usually swallows all the extra income that could be being invested. Instead of using the salary increase to buy assets, generate income, and build wealth, the person uses it to sustain higher fixed expenses. The bigger house comes with bigger bills, more maintenance, more taxes, more furniture, more everything. The standard rises, but financial freedom doesn't. Robert Kiyosaki talks a lot about the rat race, that cycle in which the person works more to earn more, but also spends more, and in the end remains trapped, dependent on the next salary. When the cost of living becomes very high, any unexpected event becomes a serious problem. Losing a job, getting sick, or facing an economic crisis becomes much scarier when your monthly expenses are enormous and inflexible. Housing, in particular, is one of life's biggest expenses. When someone takes on a property far above what they can pay with tranquility, they end up sacrificing investments, reserves, and opportunities. The house becomes a source of pride on the outside, but constant pressure on the inside. Instead of being a place of security, it becomes a heavy obligation that requires years of intense work just to be maintained. People who build wealth usually do the opposite of what most expect. They maintain a standard of living below what they could sustain. Even when they earn more, they don't immediately increase their fixed expenses. First, they invest, build assets, and strengthen the financial base. Only later, when the income generated by these assets is sufficient, do they raise the lifestyle without compromising freedom. In the end, wealth isn't about looking successful today, but about having choices tomorrow. An inflated lifestyle can give immediate comfort, but can also imprison you in an endless work routine. A conscious standard of living, aligned with your financial goals, opens space to invest, grow, and in the future, live with much more tranquility and autonomy. If you've made it this far, you've already realized something very important. Becoming poor or building wealth rarely depends on one big mistake. Most of the time, everything is decided in the small habits repeated every month. They're expenses that seem normal, socially accepted, and even encouraged, but which, when added up over the years, steal exactly what everyone seeks: tranquility, security, and freedom of choice. Robert Kiyosaki always made it clear that money doesn't disappear by chance. It follows the path you allow. When you learn to identify useless expenses, you're not giving up living well, you're opening space to live better in the future. Each expense eliminated or adjusted transforms into an opportunity to invest, grow, and leave the race in which so many people spend their entire lives running without leaving the spot. True change doesn't happen overnight, but starts with awareness. When you start looking at your money with more attention, you stop being controlled by it and start using it as a tool to build the life you want. Small decisions made today can mean years of tranquility down the road. Now I want to know from you, which of these expenses did you realize most impacts your financial life today? This type of reflection is the first step to change the direction of your story. If this content made sense to you, like the video, so more people have access to this knowledge, and share with someone who also needs to open their eyes to these financial leaks. This can help more than you imagine.